I'm in. I'll go.
Hmm.
I don't care how weird it is. And I kind of went back to church. I was going back to Catholic church because that's what I knew. That's what I grew up with. And it was just more of the same. I was like, this isn't what I was looking for. I'm not finding authenticity here, not finding community here. So we go to this church called Faith Center in La Grande, and it was a four-square church. And the people there are super nice and super cool. And I met the people there, and I experienced my first time charismatic worship. And let me tell you, fella, when I saw people raising their hands, I was like, oh my God, what is going on? What are these
Coming
people
from a
doing?
Catholic church going to a charismatic church.
If you've never been to Catholic church, just go one time, and and if you're charismatic, you've never been, it is so different. Or if you've never been to the charismatic church, people are dancing, people are raising hands, people are like crying
Hmm.
in
Yeah.
church. And I was like, I this is weird. This is weird. But the people there are really nice. And I met
Hmm.
the worship pastor. This is where we meet Jeffrey. Jeffrey is the most interesting. He's still a good friend of mine. I'm actually going to go this summer to see him. I try and see him as much as I can. Jeffrey, I thought, was this very nice man, um, Ned Flanders type. And, he's up there playing the guitar. He's just super gentle. And he's got, oh, poor Jeffrey, he has deformed fingers, right? His fingers are super small. And I'm like, oh, poor guy, you're probably born that way. And that's why you're making all these assumptions about him. Come to find out, Jeffrey has deformed fingers because he was in a heavy death metal band and got that from drugs and fighting.
Ooh, fun
Baddest
guy.
dude ever. This dude this dude, his whole job at Foursquare was to go into the drug houses in La Grande, pull people out, and minister to them. Like, it was well known La Grande has a huge drug problem with meth and fentanyl, and
Yeah.
even before fentanyl was a thing. And Jeffrey, I'll never forget this. He had this thing called South Side of Heaven. It was a church outside of church for people who were unchurched. The
Hmm.
guy that was the most intimidating dude, the dude you never cross, was like LeGrand's number one drug dealer. He would go there, and he ended up getting saved. And this dude had a bald head, tattoo up here, the teardrops. I mean, this dude was a bad, you know what,
He was
bad
about
mother,
that life.
uh, like scariest guy. And this guy was there, and turned out to be an absolute puddle afterwards, like just
Mm.
absolute gooey bear, just nicest guy. And that's the guy Jeff would minister to. And he was like, hey, bro, you should come over to our house. We're right across the dorms, and every Monday night for Monday Night Football, and we'll have food. And I'm like, you had me at food. You had me at football. I am that.
Hmm.
So I started going with Matt. And what's funny is I talked to Jeff and his wife, Kelly, about it. They were thinking Matt's the guy they're going to disciple. They just thought I was a sideshow. And I kept going, and Matt stopped going, right? And I kept going. I loved hanging out with him. I loved hanging out with Kelly and their daughter. I loved being there. It felt like peace when I went in their home. And I knew they were like so utterly different from the stereotypical Christian because the first day I went there, Jeff was like, hey, do you want a beer? And I'm like, being a
Clearly
21,
not a Baptist.
yup, yup, I want a beer. It was good beer. It wasn't even like Coors Light, weak beer.
Oh.
And he, I was asking him as soon as I cracked open a beer, I started drinking. I'm like, man, Christians drink? He's like, oh yeah, man, it's not sin. It's like, show me in the Bible where, and I'm like, oh, interesting. You are so utter.
Mm.
Like, he was interesting. He was real, and we got real. And I started asking him questions, and never once did he um, judge me. Never once did he speak down to me. He spoke to me. I had nothing. I had nothing to offer him. I was not knowledgeable like I am right now in the Bible. There was nothing that people saw in me that were like, yes, like you are a strong Christian. I had nothing to offer these people, and he loved me through it.
Mm.
He loved me through it. He believed in me. That's what I was looking for. And I'll never forget, I finally went to church a couple times. I really liked the music. They play music was really good. It was way better in the Catholic Church. God, grief, it was horrible music in the Catholic Church. But the music was actually good. Like it was very peaceful. Is the best way I can explain it. And I kept going despite all the weirdness and stuff. And one day they were playing a song called Phil Wickham. You're Beautiful. Are you familiar with that song?
I don't know the names of the songs. If you sang it, I probably hear or probably know it, but yeah.
It was a really popular song at the time. Phil Wickham's huge in Christian music. My wife's a worship leader,
Hmm.
so or worship leader, I should say. She was
Did
had a
not know that.
big crush on Phil Wickham. He's a stud,
Hmm.
good
Yeah,
looking.
as most people should.
Yeah, I have a crush on Phil Wickham. He's a good looking man.
Yeah.
Uh, but I remember they were playing the song "You're Beautiful," and there was a line there where it said, I see you there hanging on the tree. You bled and you died and you rose again for me."
Hmm.
In that moment, I mean, thinking about it makes me want to cry. It just clicked. It went from
Hmm.
information in my head to my heart. It became something personal. And just the idea that he died for me, it wasn't theoretical anymore. It wasn't just information anymore. Like, I wasn't a Christian yet because it hadn't gone from here to here. At that moment, I knew that Jesus died for me. And it changed everything. I felt a flood of love I never felt in my life. And I remember bawling my eyes out. Now I understood why those charismatics were bawling their eyes out. They're understanding what wretches they are and how loved they are in Christ. This is amazing.
Hmm.
First time ever, I raised my hands. I understood that. I'm like, I'm giving you praise. You are worthy of it. And I remember Jeff coming up. He was so excited. And he was like, I saw you worshiping. You were so passionate. And I just looked at him. I'm like, I think I'm a Christian. I think I'm
Oh.
a Christian now. And that was the first time I really said it out loud publicly to someone else. And
Hmm.
all he said was, just welcome to the family. Welcome to the family. And from that day forward, I, was a believer. I was on fire, dude.